Hey guys, so a few weeks ago I brought a Cyber Dragon deck profile, and so since then we've of course had a new ban list that's going to come into effect soon. So I thought I'd bring an updated list, but this time I actually decided to just do something a little different, a more going first version where we're utilizing that sprite package, which I've done in the past before, as have many others. And so I'll certainly go over the deck list as well as a quick little combo to show you how it works. Now, full disclaimer though, if you're looking to play sprite, definitely just play it the normal way. That will be much better. This is more so if you're interested in playing Cyber Dragons and want to try to have a more going first version available. So certainly let's just get right to the list. And again, if you are interested in a Cyber Dragon deck box, you can certainly check it out at LW Duel and use my code Hakuna10 for 10% off. Alright, so let's just start with the main deck, and let's just go over the Cyber Dragon part of the deck first. So we're going to start with the 3 core. Now, so this obviously in traditional Cyber Dragon is always the best card. In this deck, not really the best card, but still it's kind of nice. It is the level 2, that's where the sprite part of the combo will come in, and I'll show you that later. Another nice thing about this in this strategy is that let's say your opponent clears your board, and then they have monster, and you don't have any monsters on the start of your next turn, and if this is in your graveyard, you can banish it, and you can actually summon out another core from the deck. So that it just gives you that another level 2 body, and this can either help you get into your infinity play if you have the hand for it, or at the very least, search you that overflow for the pop, just so that you don't completely die to Dark Ruler. We have the 3 Hers, which in normal Cyber Dragons is great. In this version, honestly, it's not amazing, especially because it's a level 1, right? And it's really just there to do the whole Nova Infinity line, which admittedly can get a little bricky in this variant. But anyways, in terms of the one Naxer, this one is kind of interesting in this version because you can actually pitch a Nimble Angler with it to special summon this, and then the Angler will trigger, and then you can summon out the 2 Beavers. We're also just going to play the one original Cyber Dragon as well, basically just something that comes out of this when you pitch it for Galaxy Soldier, which we have right here. And so basically, we're only playing one Cyber Dragons. It's kind of like the no machine dupe build, even in normal Cyber Dragons, the way you play it that way, where you don't play multiple of these. We are going first as well, so you're never really going to summon this going first, at least especially in this variant. And then you just have it to pitch for the soldier, and then we have of course the one Jizakuru that it is searchable in this deck, and also worst case you can pitch it for Galaxy Soldier to summon it out. And so Kaiju is always kind of nice. Some more Cyber Dragon stuff is the 3 Emergency to search, for the most part, your core, but sometimes your Hers to get you into that Nova Infinity combo. The 1 Repair Plant, this can definitely get a little bricky in this version because we are mixing it with Sprite, and you do need a Cyber Dragon engrave to be able to activate this. And so, but really, it's just there to do your Nova Infinity line. And then the last card is that Overflow, really. If you don't have the hand to go into Nova Infinity, but you still have the other Sprite stuff to do the Sprite combo, you can at least search this off of core, or sometimes, let's say you hard draw this, but no Cyber Dragon cards, but with, let's say with Gigantic, you can just summon out the core, link it off or whatever, so at least this is engraved. And then, I mean, it doesn't have to be engraved to do Overflow, but you might as well, just to get a little bit more advantage out of it. So you can at least have a pop on top of that, and you might also have a smasher on top of that as well. Alright, now on to the sprite stuff. We of course have the triple blue. This one was not hit, but unfortunately the starter was hit, which sucks. So this is going to be really the best sprite, at least for now still. So we also have the 3 jet, really going to get you that either the starter or probably smashers in this version. We do have the 1 red and 1 carrot. I actually usually play 2 of these in a more normal traditional sprite version, but you know what, just one of each is fine, and that's kind of actually the norm. We also have of course the Nimble package, so this is where it can kind of unfortunately conflict in terms of like your normal summons, because you do have core, and sometimes it might be better off just summoning the core just so you get that overflow. Sometimes you have no choice but to summon this, but nonetheless, it's really more so there so that it can be specialed off of the Angler when you send it with the Sprint. And then we are playing the Melfi stuff just like most people are, but the thing I like more so with the Melfi stuff is that with Sprite, it essentially means you don't have anything specific that you have to summon off with Gigantic, right? When you play, let's say, like the Toad package, you always, for the most part, you're gonna have to summon out that Swap Frog, or let's say you play Ibli, you kind of need that particular monster that you have to summon, and sometimes it doesn't go your way, and that's sort of like what your whole game plan was geared towards. The thing I like about Melfi is just any rank 2 and you go into the Melfi stuff, so that's what I really like about it. Unfortunately, we only have the double starter now because it's semi-limited, and of course the smasher. I did want to play double cross too. Originally I actually was gonna side it at least, but then I decided, just I'll try to make room for anti-spell fragments instead. I think it'll still be very good next format, and so unfortunately this is sort of how I'm going with it, and this is kind of like the primary one. You're searching out jet rather than this, at least in this version, and then you can basically at least have this with like your monster and maybe some hand traps as well. And then finally onto some generic cards. We have the 3 Effect Failure and 3 Ash. And now the reason I chose this is that Effect Failure, the reason for this instead of Imperm is just because it's a light and you can pitch it off Galaxy Soldier worst case, and because this deck is a little bit more prone to kind of like brickiness in terms of doing your Cyber Dragon lines and like your normal Cyber Dragon play. That's why I decided to do that. I normally would have wanted another light hand trap. So for example, it used to be Gamma before this ban list, but and Gamma is particularly nice in Sprite variants because it's a level 2 and you can play E-Telly as a pseudo starter as well. Problem is now that's the Gamma's limited, there's no reason to play it. I also thought about playing 3 Nibs instead because it's also a light monster. The problem is, at least beginning of this format, I wasn't really confident how good it might be, so that's why I decided to do with Ash, just because it is quite generic and also, you know, branded. It's going to be one of the better decks. Ash is really good. Labyrinth, Ash is also good to stop the Welcome Labyrinth, and it's just really nice to have. And then just double pot only because I normally play 3 in any Sprite or any Cyber Dragon, like pure versions, but the problem with this extra deck gets pretty tight and you're only ever going to banish 3 off of Prosperity if you ever draw it. But I decided to still play it because, again, just to mitigate some of the brickiness that this deck can potentially face. Moving on to the extra deck, let's again focus more on the Cyber Dragon part first. We have the 1 Almirage, 1 Seeger. I wasn't really planning on using this only because I'm not running Rampage or any other OTK kind of strategies anymore. But at the same time, I felt that, you know, in case that Baguska might still see some play. Let's say Super Heavy Samurai, we know it got big hits, but who knows? Maybe they're still going to see a decent amount of play, at least at the beginning of the format. I'm not sure. It could be completely different or opposite rather, and no one plays at all. But this can be a good way to out Baguska. And fun fact, this is, I believe, actually tied for the highest attack for a Link 2 that's in the game right now, and this can actually pump itself to 42, so technically it would be strongest, I presume. Just the 1 Nova and 1 Infinity can't really fit double of these in a Cyber Sprite build. And of course the Zeus, which technically can also be considered as a Sprite card, I guess. So, you know, really standard. The 1 Fortress, 1 Mega Fleet, so this can be more so convenient when it comes up going second. Mega Fleet's always kind of nice and can out certain cards that, you know, regular Sprite might not be able to. In terms of the Sprite part of the extra deck that I'm considering is, so first 1 Sprint. I normally play 2 in pure Sprite, but again, extra deck's kind of tight. And also, you know what, Kashtira did lose whatchamacallit, Mind Hacker, so it's not as bad. So this is very important now that Elf is gone. You know, this dumps that Angler, gets us 2s. I actually decided to play IP and Unicorn. The reason for this is, you know, normally we're probably going to go for the Melfi line, and you might not have enough bodies to go on top of this either, but sometimes you can't go into the Melfi line because, let's say, I don't know, you hard drew some of them, or in cases where I'm finding that, you know, let's say I have like a Hers in hand that just didn't end up doing anything, and especially when I also hard drew the Overflow, and so Overflow is dead at the moment, because Overflow, if you're banishing from hand, guys, you do have to remember it has to be original Cyber Dragon if you're banishing from hand. So I needed something where I can kind of discard a card and also has some benefits, so I decided to go with IP and Unicorn. You know, let's say you pitch that Hers, you also add a Cyber Dragon, and now let's say if you even had an Overflow on top of that, now it's alive. You can actually pop 2 on top of that, so that's why I decided to do it. I'm not quite sure if it's all that great, but we also have, of course, the double Gigantic, really strong card in this deck. You know, gets you any whatever 2s that you need. This card, I love this card. Giant Mosquito, like this card OTKs like crazy. It doesn't matter if your opponent has like a, I don't know, non-outable monster in terms of whatever effects, you know, you don't have to out it if you can just inflict burn damage based on their attack. So this card's very strong. I hate mosquitoes in real life, but this mosquito I do love. Melfi, I decided to not play the Synchro one just because, you know, extra deck's tight, so I only play the Herald, which this can come up in terms of, you know, whatever synchro on your opponent's turn, and then, you know, this guy really adds you the caddy, and then the caddy will like add you the penny, and then you synchro into this on your opponent's turn. So all in all, pretty tight extra deck, but I think it's pretty decent. And then finally onto the side, I decided to still delegate the Droll in the side. You never know, at the beginning of the format it's always safe to have this in the side, so I felt I should just keep it there. Some back row in terms of double Cyclone and Harpy's Feather Duster. Always want to play like 3 of these, but you know what, whatever. You could actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe Twin Twisters might be better, just because, you know, let's say you pitch like an Angler when you're like going second, but at the same time, you know, I was just worried about Runic coming back again, and you kind of need something where it doesn't destroy but banish instead. And then also triple Dark Ruler, very safe card to run in any side deck really. and also evenly matched. Basically, these two cards combined usually end up being really strong and very clear board wipe. And as I mentioned earlier in the profile, I decided to just have more going first options and focusing out on anti-spell fragrance instead. I think this card is going to be very strong. It's already very strong against something like Branded, but you never know, especially at the beginning of the format with that new ban list. There might be a lot of Sky Striker players out there, so you know what, I think this card will be very strong moving into this format as well. Alright, so I'm just going to change the camera angle a little here just so I don't have to do everything backwards. But let's just say we have the Cyber Dragon combo, and then just to show you how the Sprite part sort of comes into the mix. So let's just say you have, Core and Emergency. This could be like Repair Plan or, Galaxy Soldier or hers, any different combination. So let's say we had these two cards in particular. I would start with the Emergency first. Add that hers, check for Droll. Now you would actually just normal summon the Core, use its effect to search, and you're going to add that Cyber Repair Plan. Next, you're going to link that Core off so you can summon the Almirage, and now you have a Cyber Dragon Grave, and you can just activate that Repair Plan, which adds you the Galaxy Soldier. From here, you would just pitch the hers to summon the Soldier, chainlink one Soldier, chainlink to hers. The hers will just add you a normal Cyber Dragon, and then the Soldier will just add itself, and you basically just do that again and pitch for the summon of Soldier. Next, you will overlay here into the Cyber Dragon Nova, use its effect, detach for cost, and you're going to actually special Cyber Dragon Core now because it is a level 2, and this is where it is important to get into your Sprite stuff. At this point, you will go into Infinity so that you have an Omni Negate, and now you can link these two off. Core is a level 2, which means you can go into Sprint, use Sprint's effect to dump that Angler, and then Angler effect will give you the double Nimble Beavers, and next you can basically just overlay these two for that Gigantic, use its effect, and you're going to summon out your Sprite Blue, and the Sprite Blue will add you the Jet, and Jet you will summon, and in this instance you can just add something like Smasher, and then on top of that, now you can just go here and overlay into, okay, as I just noticed, this should be Melfi of the Forest, not Joyous Melfi. Apologies, I bought the wrong Melfi. So pretend this is Melfi of the Forest, and you're going to use its effect essentially to detach, and you're going to add that caddy to hand. And so at this point, you're going to set the Smasher, and then let's say in end phase, basically you can summon that caddy. And so now in terms of interruptions, so for example, if your opponent special summons, Sprint can detach from one of these two or even Infinity, but you would save that for its negates, just so you can bounce back your opponent's monster. For example, if you're, let's say your opponent normal special summons, you can always bounce back that caddy, and it can add Penny. You can technically add a Beaver too, it's up to you, but probably Penny. And then of course this can also trigger in that instance, and it would like negate that of the monster's effect, as well as would not be able to attack. And then also you can use Penny's effect as well. Basically it's going to allow you to synchro summon into Herald essentially, and gives you another Omni Negate, and then you also have a Smasher, and on top of that you would have 3 more cards, of course. So this is just sort of where the Cyber Dragon part come in, and so as I mentioned earlier in the profile, again, it kind of depends. Let's say you have no way of going into like the Infinity line, so at least with Core you can like search something like Overflow, so you have a pop and also a Smasher. And also instances where let's say you hard open something like the Overflow, you can always summon out the Core with Gigantic, that way you have like a pop live as well. And another instance that I mentioned in the profile is just like the Naxter. You can always pitch a Nimble Angler to summon out that Naxter, and then the Angler would trigger and give you 2 more bodies in terms of level 2s, and that's full Sprite combo. Alright guys, so that was it for the quick little deck profile as well as a quick combo. Hopefully you found that interesting, and maybe it's a way to play Cyber Dragons in a different fashion that you might be interested in. So again, a big thanks to those of you for watching, and also a big thanks to my Patreons as always for supporting the channel, and well, take care guys.